While Apex Legends sounds like an Xbox gamertag from the era which developers Respawn Entertainment were busy making Call of Duty games, it's actually a surprise free-to-play battle royale game that launched yesterday based in the Titanfall universe. While there's lots of nods to the lore of the Titanfall franchise with things like the Marvin legend, weapons and gear from past games, as well as settings from multiplayer maps around the world, this is not a third Titanfall game, and more on that later, hence its really cringy name. However, despite how bad the title is, it's the best first-person battle royale game currently available to play, and Respawn said that they wanted to let the game do the talking, so I'm definitely listening. You might be saying to yourself, it looks like your average, more realistic shooter-based battle royale game, so what differentiates this from the other plethora of them out there? This game has a focus on class-based combat, whereby each member of a squad picks a legend with different cooldown abilities similar to Royale prior to the start of the match. However, unlike in that game, the weaponry is more akin to games like PUBG and Blackout, where there's lots of different attachments you could sub in and out, and the combat is a lot more up my alley with these guns and equipment instead of the weird weaponry like bows and arrows and swords. There's different classes of legends that play different roles on a squad. Each has a passive ability that's always active, like running faster when being shot at, or putting up a front-facing shield when reviving a down teammate, as well as two different cooldown abilities, a shorter one that are similar to the tactical abilities of the pilots in Titanfall, like the AWOL dome shield, a grapple ability, and the hollow pilot, while the longer cooldown abilities are more powerful things like mortar strikes, which, by the way, do need some additional warning indicators of when it's coming and perhaps a delay from when you launch it to when it actually happens, calling in a loot care package, and a gas barrage. Each has its own finisher that mimics executions in Titanfall, where it goes into a third-person little animation there, kind of like a Mortal Kombat style fatality on down players. There's a huge emphasis on team play, with requiring teams of 3 to be auto-filled, as well as core gameplay functionality that helps facilitate working together, like when you start off the match, you jump together as a squad versus all individually. The concept of spotting enemies we've had in Battlefield games for a long time now, but you can also spot locations and pieces of gear on the ground for other players to be notified of it, call out for your needs in terms of ammo or attachments or equipment, which is a feature that should be a de facto standard in team-oriented games. The synchronization of voice lines from characters and notification pop-ups in the feed with this spotting feature, plus lots of smaller quality of life UI features like having a not sign when attempting to pick up attachments that won't work on your current weapons, show that Respawn paid attention to even the little details in spite of its similarities to other battle royale titles. The other main difference is the concept of respawn. Hey, wonder where they got that idea from. But anyways, if one of your squad mates gets thirsted, you could run over to their crate and grab their banner, which then can be delivered to one of the spawn beacons that are placed all around the map. The person is then brought to life like an Evanescence song coming out of a dropship as a tip of the cap to Titanfall. However, they can only be used by one squad at a time, and the person doing so is very vulnerable, so it's an additional place of potential conflict, forcing action together in certain pockets of the map, aside from that ever-moving shrinking circle. I do think the respawn timer of 7 seconds is a bit on the short side. It should be more like 15 or so for something as powerful as getting an entire member of a team back. However, the revived player also has absolutely nothing in their inventory when they come back in the game, so it's part of the trade-off, especially when it's done in a later round after most places have been looted barren. Kind of like when you die in those really late rounds of zombies and the rest of your team cleans up your mess when you spawn back into the game in the next round, you're fucking shit out of luck there. The gunplay feels great, as you'd expect from a Respawn game. However, characters are definitely more bullet spongy than I anticipated, but it doesn't feel like Blackout with the constant dink, 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 dink armor sound. The standard magazine sizes for a lot of the guns are really small, like 16 for the alternator and 18 for the R301, and the iron sights on most guns are absolute shite, so you'll really need to find a scope laying around. However, there are a lot of different ones to choose from. Ammo is also kind of scarce, and I'm not a huge fan of how only clusters of a certain amount take up an entire backpack slot. Perhaps it should be as much ammo as possible for one single slot, because I think that having it not count towards your inventory isn't the answer here. There needs to be some give and take. Additionally, the tactical and lethal equipment have a ring selector if you hold down the button, or if you push it, it's a single use of the current selected one, which is really my only UI complaint. It's kind of cumbersome at times to swap things around mid-gunfight. The map doesn't really feel like it has distinct areas like in other battle royale games. It all kind of blends together with the washed out color palette, even with places based on Lagoon, Boneyard, and other locations from past multiplayer maps. Aside from respawn beacons, there are things like zip lines and balloons around the map that allow for increased mobility. The map isn't isn't very big, and that's perhaps why they chose the 3-person team with 20 squads altogether, making it 60 players max. But there's still times where if multiple teams land in the same named locations, the gun rush feels really like you're praying to the RNGesus to get a weapon so you don't end up trying to flail around wildly. Although the game is definitely set up for teams instead of playing solo with the synergy between the different legends, I don't see why the number 3 is magical, so I'd like to have duos or quads as options down the line, and if people do want solo, that will have a completely different meta because of the character abilities. I won't personally play because I don't really like playing BR games by myself, but it should at least be an option for people that do. It is a free-to-play game, so there are cosmetic microtransactions and unfortunately loot boxes, which you get from both playing the game and ranking up for in-game currency, and there's also paid-for currency. My only concern is that there are 2 legends that are currently locked behind this paywall, and when balanced, this isn't a huge deal, but Respawn needs to be very careful when talking about meta-altering items so it doesn't get the stigma of being pay to win. We already know that there's a roadmap available that's even deeper than the Battlefield 5 one, with new items coming out each season, including legends that will keep the game feeling fresh. So the elephant in the room is Titanfall 3, which has been confirmed as not in development, and this is what the resources besides Jedi Fallen Order development was used on for Respawn Studio. While that's kind of disappointing, I don't mind them delivering a great game like this while also having Titanfall 2 to play, which is still an amazing game, versus having one game, Titanfall 3. The rumor is that the Source engine, which is what Titanfall is based on, is not really up to standards going forward with where the team wanted to push the series, so instead, the game was transformed into this offering, which is on the Source engine, because of course, now that Respawn is owned by EA, they're going to have to use the Frostbite engine with their game, so there was no way that we were going to get a Titanfall 3 anytime soon anyways with that development restriction, so this is a good holdover until that project maybe eventually gets a green light. The wall running and momentum-based movement, as well as the absence of Titans, is a bummer from that standpoint, but it's understandable given the type of game that we've got in front of us here. I don't really understand why EA decided to surprise release this game right after one of its most heavily invested products, Anthem, just had its demo weekend that has been full of negative publicity thus far, and a month ahead of another one of its pillar franchises, Battlefield, releasing its own Battle Royale mode. I guess EA is finally repaying Respawn back for fucking them in the ass with the launch of Titanfall 2. However, it just seems that EA continually shoots itself in the foot with regards to its own fucking products. I'm glad that we got a sick Battle Royale game out of nowhere, though, and while there is room for improvement, this game has what it takes to topple Blackout and PUBG in the FPS BR genre. It actually reminds me a lot of Islands of Nine, however, it's free to play versus that game was a $30 offering, hence why it's been dead for a while and the development plug has been pulled on that game and it's now actually free to play. But the lack of price point barrier to entry gives it a head start over the other competition with Blackout and PUBG. If you don't like the third-person perspective and the building aspect of Fortnite, then this is the Battle Royale game for you, but no, this isn't a Fortnite killer by any means for a variety of reasons, in spite of the fact that it's on top of Twitch right now. Anyways, have you tried the game and what do you think? Let me know down below. I've been the Schwantz27, out like Metro Exodus on Steam. Until next time.